So I'm sitting here watching this Brandon Tatum interview with Nolan Wells' friend Warren. I got it playing on the TV right there. They both go. I'm trying to understand what it is that y'all mad about with Brandon Tatum. I done seen some of the white liberal saviors and black folks get on here and talk about him. Why y'all mad that he went to go talk to Nolan Wells' homeboy who just so happened to be a white boy? If you mad at that, go eat, because you part of the problem. And the white liberal saviors, they the biggest part of the issue, but that's a whole nother story. What I'm saying to y'all is, this is Warren. They in Mississippi. Nolan Wells' friend. He said, man, I met Nolan Wells in the 8th grade. We was super cool. We started getting tight after that. Nolan Wells, always smiling. He bring joy to everybody. Any room he walk in, he light the room up. Man, I text him all the time. He in the group chat. We hang out every time we come back from school. He said, no, I didn't really go over his house like that, but we was still close. That didn't mean nothing. And here y'all go, oh, well, how y'all close and you never went to his house? That's why I hate social media, because y'all get on here and act like life just perfect. I got so many homeboys in my life whose house I never went to as kids. But when we got grown, yes, we hung out. That does not mean this person not my friend because I never went to their house. What type of shit is that? Y'all logic is crazy, dog. Your logic is crazy. But I remember, we on social media where y'all like to make up. So I'm just trying to understand, mainly to the white liberal saviors who think they know everything was good for black folks, and to my black people who can't let racism go. What are you saying about Brandon Tatum and this white boy that's making you mad? Because now that means you mad at Nolan Wells. Nolan Wells is a fool for being friends with this white boy, because y'all saying this is who took his life or got something to do with it. I thought y'all wanted racism to end. You don't want that shit to end. White liberal saviors and black folks got a racist fetish. They want to hear racist. Their mind can't compute like, hey, this didn't have nothing to do with racism. They want to believe it was racist so bad, and I don't understand that. I'm confused. Because I'm sitting here watching that. I'm looking for some racist. I'm looking for something that look fishy. And I can't find none. I'm just seeing regular conversations. I done seen racist white people. I'm black. I've been black my whole life. I know how they look, how they talk, how they walk, all the dog whistles they use and the microaggressions. I know this. Imagine like a regular white boy in Mississippi who like to fish and hang out with his partner who just so happened to be black.
What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you guys pulling up today. We got to talk about it, man, because Brandon Tatum is doing great work. Shout out to that brother, man. He's come a long ways. I've been following and watching this brother for a long time, man. And to see where he is today, man. Now, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't like him. They're upset with him. You know, they call him a blackface of white supremacy, so forth and so on, because he's just willing to tell the truth. When so many people make a whole lot of money grifting on lies. And here we are once again with a lot of people grifting on lies. This dude's actually doing real investigative journalism, something that mainstream media should take note of, because Lord knows we can't get them to actually do their job and go do an investigative journalism and just go get the facts and present the facts. Can't trust them to do it. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel. We got a lot to get into. Let's go.
Let me address the optics issue here first, which is weird for a white guy to say this to a black man, but there are people in the black community who are going to say, I can't believe you had that Brandon Tatum on. He's not a real black guy. He attacks the black cause. It doesn't matter that he's black. He's worse than a white racist. What do you make of that allegation? And
before he actually speaks, I want to say this. People that say stuff like this, people that get upset because people like Tatum and myself and so many others are willing to call out the foolishness. That is the problem. You got too many people that are willing to lie, opposed to telling the truth and calling it out as they see it. It's a problem. It needs to stop. But we know there's a lot of money made in keeping the grift going and keeping these lies going. There's a lot of money on that side of things. Let me let him rock.
why do you think it's out there?
Well, Chris, thank you so much. And I'll say this, man, we're all Americans at the end of the day, so I don't take any offense of you using your freedom of speech and your commentary to come up with these things or make your point. I think it's laughable. I mean, for somebody to say, I don't like the black community because I'm willing to find both sides of the story to get to what happened to Nolan Wells, I mean, people should be ashamed of themselves for even framing me like that. But the problem is many people want this country to stay divided. They want us to stay in a sense of fight or flight mode, and that racism is the main focus, and that's the main contributor to black success or failure in this country. And it's just not the case. Most people are not worried about race. I'm sure you and I couldn't care less what color somebody's skin is. Are you a good person or you're not a good person? And some things that I found out after going to Mississippi and talking to a whole slew of people is that in this situation, it does not appear that race was a factor. A young man lost his life, and I think that's what we need to focus on, and we need to focus on finding out how he lost his life.
What is your take, as someone who's obviously intimately familiar with law enforcement, what is your take on the suggestion that, you know, the authorities really started this? They came out too soon saying no foul play. They should have said that they were investigating because there's not enough evidence for them to put out there of their own conclusion. What do you think of that?
Well, they're darned if they do, they're darned if they don't. If they said nothing, people will be mad that they didn't say enough. If they come out and at least give some people some idea of what the investigation has in store so far, then people get mad at that. They did not say that there was no foul play. They said at this point, we don't have any indication of foul play, which I think that any rational person that's involved or invested in this should feel very confident in, like, okay, we're not looking at some heinous murder where a kid was mutilated and things like that. At least they can feel somewhat of relief that it wasn't a brutal murder. But there's still an investigation that needs to go on, and they're dedicated in finding out what happened to Nolan. And if it leads to a murder, they're going to let the public know, and people are going to be held accountable. So I don't know why people get so frustrated with these things if they're looking at it in a fair sense, where they're not going to give you everything. They can only give you so much, so they can actually give you a fair investigation. So at the end result, it can be, you know, done in a fashion where they can present it to a grand jury.
Well, but, you know, and it's a little in the weeds for people, but I do think it's important. So they're presenting evidence to a grand jury. The official word is, we don't have any proof of any foul play yet, but we are going to a grand jury. Now, as you and I know, and people at home should know, yes, the grand jury looks for the lowest level of proof, which is probable cause, but a prosecutor has to have a good faith belief that there is something to bring to the grand jury worth their time in order to go to one. So what are we supposed to think here, Brandon? Why are they going to a grand jury if there's nothing to see here?
Yeah, that's a great question. Basically, what I heard from authorities is that this is typical. Any case involving a mysterious death or where it's undetermined, they have to take all their evidence to a grand jury and present it to make sure that there's nothing afoot and they don't believe that other people who have been involved should be charged. So it's not an indictment to say that there's something, a crime occurred. It's typical for them to do this. It's routine. This is the process that every case that is not clearly determined that it wasn't a crime afoot, they have to bring all the evidence they have to the grand jury. And they do that for public trust. So you don't, so they can't go down and say, well, they did this for this case and not for this case. Every case involving a death that's undetermined in this fashion will be brought to a grand jury.
Tatum's absolutely right. I went and did the research myself because I thought it was like, I wonder why they're going to, and I found out that when there are cases like this, when the death has been undetermined, they all go to a grand jury. And again, the reason why that happens is that gives checks and balances. Grand jury is the people within the community, right? You won't know who they are, but it gives a checks and balance from, you know, the prosecutor or DA office to an actual jury, which would be the people within the community and the police department who are doing the investigation. The police can't just come out and say, hey, we didn't find anything, that's it, and move on. That gives the checks and balances. I don't think people really understand that. But then again, most people aren't reading at a level higher than the 5th grade. So we know they hadn't taken the time to go and do their due diligence and research to figure out, hey, what's the process when something like this happens? They hadn't done that. Let's keep going.
Listen to Officer Tatum's interview with Nolan Wells' friend, and I don't even rock with Officer Tatum like that, but I appreciate him for bringing another perspective to the table. Like, y'all ain't gotta believe Nolan Wells' friend, but at least we get to hear the other side of the story versus y'all just labeling these folks as murderers without much to support that claim. But when you hear his side of the story, bro, that's crazy. Because I'm telling, when I first clicked on the case and I was listening to Ben Crump and Al Sharpton talk about it a little bit, they made it seem like these 3-4 boys and Nolan went out to the island and it was just them. And something happened and they just left them there. And they clearly had something to do with it and blah, blah. And then when you hear Nolan's friend's side of the story, and he's like, bro, look at the security camera, bro. It was like 20 to 30 of us on 3 boats. Everybody knew everybody, but Nolan was more close with us, so he was on our boat. But when we got to the island, it was hundreds of thousands of people there.
Probably not hundreds of thousands. You might be over-exaggerating there, but it was a lot of people there, and there were a lot of boats. Seems like that is the thing to do out there. People have a boat during the holidays, during the weekends, when it's nice out. You go out to Horn Island. They drop the anchor, and everybody gets out and chills. They enjoy themselves. They get into the libations and other things like that. I watched the interview yesterday, which Crump and Al Sharpton failed to mention that one of his homeboys was, is a biracial kid, and he was hanging out with them all day. They didn't tell that, though. They didn't say it. And they did make it seem like, oh, they went out to this abandoned island that nobody ever goes out to. It was just them, and everybody came back except for him. That's exactly how they painted it.
That already, I'm like, whoa, that's not at all what I imagine if I'm listening to the other side. And then they're like, bro, we had a boating emergency, and we told Nolan we was finna leave. Come on. He said he was gonna hang back with a girl, so we left. And I'm like, that's the most normal thing ever. Nolan hung back with a girl. I hang back with a girl. There were still hundreds of thousands of people there, and he probably thought my dogs was gonna come back. So this could potentially have nothing to do with those boys. That's what I'm saying. If we're just going off of that, because that is pretty normal versus the picture that they was trying to paint with the 3, 4, 5 of them went out to the island by themselves and left Nolan. That's crazy. And it's like, I'm not saying nothing didn't happen to Nolan, but when y'all trying to paint pictures like that, bro, come on.
Well, it's pretty obvious something happened to Nolan because he lost his life. But to paint this narrative that these young boys did something to him, I mean, it was wrong for them to paint it in that manner.
Bro, like, what are we talking about? Something could very well have happened, but it should be more from a broad, bigger picture perspective, as in there were hundreds of thousands of people out there. Nobody saw what happened to Nolan. That's another story, right? What about the girl that he was with? Did she see something, right? If he drowned, did anybody see the drowning, right? But it seems like people are wanting and hoping something like somebody murdered him. Why would you hope that? Like, why would that be the only thing that satisfied your? I don't know. That's weird.
Because you got a lot of reprobate individuals out here looking for something to continue to stoke this divisive narrative that we have in this country.
That's what people are like hoping is the case, versus it may have been drinking and beach. Drinking and water is a terrible combination. Drinking, boating, and water. That could have been the case. But again, I'm still gonna say somebody should have saw something if it was that many people on the island. So what happened? Did he sneak off to the side? Like, what was the situation? It should be more conversation like that. But the fact that it went straight into he was killed because he was a black boy. Come on, bro. That's crazy. And the fact that they said the dude said, bro, it was more than just Nolan that was there. That he wasn't the only black person there. Like, hearing the perspective from Nolan's friends or friend, again, you ain't gotta believe him. But what he said completely goes against everything Ben Crump and Al Sharpton have been saying, right? Whether you believe him or not, him setting the scene of what that day looked like and him showing the security camera footage of how many people left from their house on the boats and how many people was on the island, and the fact that everybody tried to pin his 3 to 4 friends out of the 30 people that was there, them 3, 4 had something to do with, like, that's crazy, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's crazy. But at the same time, the NAACP and some of these other groups out there, Al Sharpton's, they use these types of cases, 1, for money, but 2, to generate donations. Y'all see the GoFundMe, that thing is upwards almost to $800,000 right now. That's what this is about.
And I wanted to ask, how come nobody told me about this white man? I had no clue who this white man was until I did some research on some of his podcasts or his YouTube videos. And then it became very clear to me why I don't give this man any type of attention. But the reason why I'm going to talk about him now is because a couple of Nolan's best friends did an interview. They went on his show and did an interview. I'm not going to show it on here. I'm not going to, but you can find it. You can research it, search it, and you can find the interview of the boys. But there's a couple of things that I want to point out with that interview. The first thing is the body language. If you look at and pay attention to the body language of both of those young men, the stoic mannerism, when he was talking about the funeral. Now, I understand that everybody displays grief differently. But I'm sorry, you can't tell me that this boy grieved at all for Nolan. And to dispel some of those rumors that were going around about the mom or the family not asking them to come to the funeral, that boy tells you right there the reason why he didn't show up at the funeral. And it wasn't because he was told not to come. The other thing that was very telling with this interview was he was stumbling over his words. He was like talking in circles sometimes. It was very stoic. And not only that, some of the comments he made, like he said, everybody knows that people die out there. Everybody knows that people die out there.
Yeah. Everybody knows that when you incorporate drinking, young people, boats, and water, yeah, people die. I'm sure Nolan's not the first person to perish over in those waters. I'm for certain that he's not going to be the last. And anywhere in the country where they have these types of situations, in some cases it's lakes, go and check out Lake Lanier up in Georgia. Every summer, not just one, but a multitude of people die in that daggone lake, drinking, boats, and water. It's not a great combination, but yet people continue to do it. Yeah.
He also said that he's never been in Nolan's house. So you mean to tell me that you've been best friends for all of these years and you hang out all the time and you've never been in Nolan's house? And
not an abnormal thing. Not an abnormal thing. I want to say this as someone who, raised two they're young men now. My kids didn't have a lot of people come to the house. They just didn't. They had friends. Now, at the same time, we didn't also believe in, doing the spend the night thing. We didn't do that either. We didn't do that, especially if we hadn't met your parents and we don't know you like that. That's just not something that we did. And so that's not an abnormal thing. It just isn't.
never been in Nolan's house. If you were a naysayer before, hopefully you watch this interview and you will come with a different perspective. Then Officer Tatum asked him, how come you decided to talk now? How come you're coming on my show? We know why he's coming on your show. Because you're a white man black-faced. That's why. And the boy said, oh, I watch you all the time. Now go and watch Officer Tatum's videos and his perspectives, and you will clearly understand why they are giving an interview to him. But if you want me to believe some of your story, then I think you need to go on the Don Lemon show, or go on the Joy Reid show, or go on the Nancy Grace show.
That right there in itself says everything that you need to know. The fact that she invoked Don Lemon and Joy Reid, are you kidding me?
Oh. Telling you right now, if a white boy was on an island with his black friends, all black, and some white folks put on a camera, that something must be suspicious, because the one white boy is with all these black dudes, and something may have happened. We know that people covering it up and everything because these kids black. Man, we be pissed off on that.
Shut your up. and the people who agree with him, because he's leaving out context of why people are upset about this situation. Number one, black people have, for the most part, unified on the concept of, if you guys went out there together, you're going to come back home together. If my white homeboy is with me, he was in my boat, my car, whatever, he drove out there with me, he's coming back with me. No one told Nolan Wells' parents that this boy was even missing. You had his phone all day. You never made an effort to get it back to him. You never made an effort to communicate to him or anything like that. The mother had to come find you to come get the phone from you. And when they opened the phone, they seen that there were text messages deleted and there were Snapchat messages deleted. This is what made it suspicious. And then as soon as people figured out who he rode out there went, everyone went dark. Every single person went in dark. Stop it. Stop getting on these platforms and gaslighting people into believing that that shit ain't suspicious. It's not just the fact that he went out there with some random kids. These people are hopping online saying that they're his best friend. They're saying that they know Nolan Wells and they left him on that island.
Not by himself, though. He was with the girl. They said they got a boat issues. This dude said he didn't want to leave. Everybody knows that if you send a Snapchat message, it deletes after a while. It self-deletes. That's just what Snapchat does for privacy purposes. I think the text situation has also been refuted as well. And the thing is that, okay, they're best friends, but how would they know how to get into his phone anyway to even do anything inside of his phone? You know, I don't have any of my friends' phones' passwords or ways to get in there. I have none of that. Like, what are we talking about here?
So now everybody mad at Officer Tatum because he went out there and interviewed them young boys. Called them a coon, every type of thing in the book. That's fine. We're used to that. I don't care. The funniest part about this is that if we're trying to get to the bottom of what happened to Nolan Wells, RIP to the young man, shouldn't we interview the people that you guys are accusing that unalived him?
Exactly. But they don't believe in investigative and journalism because mainstream media doesn't believe in investigative journalism.
Shouldn't we be talking to them? See, the funniest part about all this is since the beginning of this whole thing actually happened, we really have never heard from the young boys. All we have is people on Twitter, people on TikTok, people on Instagram pontificating their theories about what they believe may have happened that day. But nobody knows. None of y'all was there. Officer Tatum went to the actual individuals that y'all believe that did something to this young boy to talk to them. Now, from that, you guys can deduce it and come up with whatever you believe may have happened. But y'all mad at Officer Tatum, and I'll tell you this. I'm not always a fan of Officer Tatum. Trust and believe that. Okay? But I think that he did a great job. He did a great job in terms of what's going on with this case. He uncovered a lot of different things. It's been proven that all these young boys spoke to police. So when you guys keep talking about a cover-up, I don't know what you guys mean by that. Who's covering what up? The police have talked to all these young boys. Where's the cover-up? Like so much, social media has ruined so much of our world that you guys can create so many narratives to make something out of nothing that was never there in the first place. Where was the cover-up? Why do y'all believe that there's a cover-up? These are questions I'm sincerely trying to ask for. There's a lot of things that don't make sense if we don't have all the answers. I understand that. But this whole race narrative that y'all just try to inject into this whole situation, it don't make a lot of sense to me. And I'm trying to make sense of it. But all these other theories that y'all keep bringing up, a lot of them are being debunked swiftly.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. They're being debunked. But you got your TikTok internet sleuths, out there, who, for likes, clicks, and views and follows, they're more willing to tell a lie than to actually stick with the facts and tell the truth. Simple as that.
We've heard different accounts of how long he's known them. And I was wondering also if you folks have spoken to those families since they lawyered up.
High school friends.
Is when we found out.
Yeah.
Say that second part again.
Have they talked to the families? No.
I haven't spoken.
Last question. They haven't spoken to the families.
But the parents, again, they've offered, and I need to correct myself because I think yesterday in one of the interviews, I think I said that maybe none of them, I want to say 2 or 3 of them have reached out. Just the first one expressing her condolences, another one just saying, hey, give me a call if and when you're ready type of deal. And then another one just, sorry for your loss, but hey, we need to talk type of thing. And you know what? it hasn't, are we at a week? My brain is mush. We're all over the place emotionally. This has been a difficult situation. I cannot express how hard this has been on not just us as parents, but also his siblings. They are struggling too with the fact that they do not have their brother.
Wells caught in a big lie.
Now, I wanted to show that clip earlier because she did go in and clear it up, and I think she didn't have a choice but to clear it up. But I think probably because after the information it came out.
When it comes to framing and public perception, this is a huge lie. And shout out to Officer Tatum for getting on the ground and answering some of these questions because this is important. Now, at first, I didn't really want to put any blame on the parents for getting Ben Crump involved. We know what happens when Ben Crump gets involved. The man can barely read, but he takes up the most high-profile cases that involve race. And when he saw this case start to trend, he rubbed his little greasy hands together, saw 2 parents at their lowest points in their lives, and I know he just decided to jump in, Hey, there's no way he could have drowned. It's Mississippi. It had to be racism. But you can put some blame on the parents because this is bullshit, right? So, newly shared text messages show Nolan Wells' mother caught lying about not having any parents reach out to her regarding her missing son. Warren Hudson's stepmom, Ashley Cole, exclusively shares new text messages revealing she reached out to Nolan's mother prior to Nolan's mother claiming nobody reached out. Nolan's mother later corrected herself on CNN. That's not good, okay? You're up here with Al Sharpton and Ben Crump and your husband acting like nobody in your community cares about you when we know that's not the case, okay? The issue is I wouldn't have sent her, I would have had a hard time sending her anything, especially when the mother's on national television, getting Ben Crump involved and making it seem like myself and my family are some racist, supremacist devils that murdered your son. They've been getting all sorts of death threats. It's been hell for these people too. Don't think they're walking out of this unscathed, okay? I would have a hard time being nice to Christine. But you know what? As soon as Nolan Wells' body was verified to be his, right? After it was discovered on the 6th, it was verified to be his on the 7th, she sent her a text message. You have a lot of dumb people saying, oh, why didn't she text her on the 4th? Why would she text her on the 4th? 99.9% of missing persons cases are solved a couple days later. That's why police officers usually wait a couple of days, especially if they're an adult. If there's no obvious signs of foul play or maybe an accident like drowning, they're not going to go out of their way and use a bunch of resources to look for anyone because 99% of the cases are easily solved. Remember, Nolan Wells is a grown-up. He could have wandered off and did his own thing. I know it sounds crazy to you, but look it up. These things happen more than you think. And I wonder when Christine looks back at this entire situation, is the money from your GoFundMe going to be worth it, right? Destroying all the reputations of your friends, destroying all their relationships and those sorts of things. I wonder the same thing. And not only did she, destroy, reputations, they destroyed their own, for $1. The word says the love of money is the root of all evil. And the reality of it is this. I started to give the Wells family the side eye. Once Ben Crump and Al Sharpton was brought into the fold, they got the side eye from me. I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on any of this? Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on to all so you never miss an upload. Consider joining the ARP family. Buy your brother a coffee. That link's in the description box below. And as always, keep God first. Stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you guys next time.
It is God who arms me with strength. Yeah, I'm battle ready. He trains my hands for battle. My heart stays steady. But thanks be to God, he gives my Lord Jesus Christ, fear can't live in me. I was down to the dirt, red clay on my shoes, old pain in my shirt, oh so bruised. Then the Lord hit my chest, kicked air from my breath, put power in my step.